Hey everyone, it's Ashley with Southern Sewing Company. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing how to make a super simple hand-embroidered Christmas ornament made from your child's handwriting. And this is the perfect gift for Christmas. They're super simple and very easy to customize. I have broken this project down into very simple steps to make it easy for you, even if you are a complete beginner. So let's get started. For this project, you're going to need an embroidery hoop, and I am using a 4-inch hoop today, a piece of scrap fabric to go inside of your hoop, and this fabric is cut at about 6 by 6. And this is a linen fabric. I definitely recommend using something that's a little heavier than quilting cotton if you want to avoid using stabilizer. I'm also opting for a light colored piece of fabric so that I can easily trace onto it. You'll also need embroidery floss and embroidery needle. You're also going to need your handwritten name. This tutorial kind of assumes that your baby or your child is already with you. So the best thing to do is to grab your embroidery hoop with whatever size that you're using, place it onto a piece of paper and trace around it, and then have your child mark inside of it. As you can see for Sarah, I put 2 dots and told her to write her name inside of those dots. You don't want the name so big that it's gonna overlap onto the embroidery hoop. So I'm gonna combine the two, use the bigger name and the heart. Some optional supplies that you might need are some felt if you would like to cover the back of the embroidery hoop once you're done. And if you would like to cover it, we're also gonna use a hot glue gun. So this is optional, you do not have to cover the back, but it does look a little nicer. So if you're gift giving, it's a good option, but like I said, not completely necessary. You'll also need some ribbon. First thing I'm going to do is trace my name onto my fabric. This is a Crayola light box. You can also use an open window if that's easy. I'm aiming for the middle of my fabric here. I'm going to take a water-soluble pen. This is a Mark Be Gone, and all the supplies that I'm using are going to be detailed below in the description box. I'm going to trace my name onto my fabric. So this is why I think it's important to use a light colored fabric. I'm going to turn this light off so I can trace. Since I have her name, I'm going to scoot over here and grab this heart. If you are in love with some dark fabric that you cannot see through, this is a really great option. This is Sulky Stick and Stitch Stabilizer, and you will actually trace your name onto here. So once you trace, you can cut this out and stick this directly to your fabric. So this is a great option, like I said, if you're using dark fabric. However, it is a little harder to stitch through, so kind of keep that in mind. That's why I recommend using light fabric. We are going to take our hoop apart and go ahead and hoop our work. I'm going to center her name right in the middle of this hoop. Place the top over the top, making sure that the clasp to close the embroidery hoop is above her name and it's not like wonky or to the side. And I'm going to tighten it as much as possible. I'm going to use all 6 strands. This is DMC Floss 452. I'm not using a whole bunch of thread. I don't need it. And I'm just going to do a back stitch today. For the heart, I might use 3 strands just to make it a little more delicate. I'm going to come up from the back, right where I want to get started, and pull all the way through. I'm going to use my finger to kind of control this knot and make sure that the back stays pretty tangle free. And the trick with smaller curves like this is to take smaller stitches. If I were to make this curve in, say, 2 stitches, it would definitely have a point to it and would not be curved at all. So I'm just going to keep moving down my name, taking small stitches. I'm not in a hurry. I'm also not going to stop between letters either. I'm just going to jump right to the next letter when I get to the end of each. Now that I finished my S, I'm going to go right to the top of this A, and I'm going to continue my back stitch all the way around. And I will meet you back at the end to tie off. I'm all finished with Sarah's name, and this is the back and what it looks like so far. I'm going to secure my threads by taking my needle and running it back through some of the stitches, being careful not to go through the fabric. Once I have a little hoop, I'm going to take my embroidery floss, or I'm going to take my needle and run it through the hoop and pull tight. And I'm going to do this once more to basically double knot in the back. When I am embroidering on clothing, I take a little more care to tie off on the back, but since this is being hung on a Christmas tree and not being, you know, touched and worn and rubbed constantly, I'm okay with this. So here's where we are so far. Next, we're going to embroider our heart, and I'm using DMC 3726 for this, and I'm going to split my embroidery floss in half so that I have 3 strands in each hand. So I'm going to hold 3 strands between my first and thumb, and then the other half between my first and middle finger, and then I'm going to go ahead and separate this floss. So I have 2 pieces. I do not need this one. I'm going to save this for another project, and I'm going to thread my needle. And I'm going to tie a knot at the end. I'm going to start down here, work my way up using a back stitch just like I did with Sarah's name, and I'm going to shorten my stitches once I get to the curves up here. Now that I'm done with the heart, we're going to do the same thing on the back. We are going to just tie off our threads. Next, we need to get rid of our water-soluble marker. I'm going to take a spray bottle with just plain water mixed with a little bit of baking soda, and I'm going to spray the name. At this point, you just wait for it to dry, and you are finished. If you would like to enclose the back, grab a piece of felt, hot glue gun, and I will meet you back here. Grab an extra embroidery hoop, and we are going to trace around the outside of our hoop. And take a pair of scissors, and we're going to cut just inside of this line. Next, take your work, and we are going to cut out some of this extra fabric from the edges. This does not have to be perfect. Like I said, you are not going to see this. First thing I'm going to do is, in sections, I'm going to take my hot glue gun and do a super thin layer. I say thin, and I just kind of gooped it on there. And as I work around in sections, I'm going to press the fabric down as I go. Now that the back fabric is secure, now we're going to take our piece of felt, and we are going to do the same thing and just glue this to the back. So now I'm going to run my hot glue gun just over the edge, taking care not to get it on the side of the hoops. Kind of have to work a little faster with this part, just because you don't have long before this dries. I'm going to put some hot glue right in the middle of my embroidery hoop up here and stick my bow right to it. At this point, you can take a piece of twine, leftover ribbon, whatever you want, and I'm going to tie it underneath this bow. There. So the cool thing about these is you really can customize them to whatever you want. Use different thread colors, ribbon, no ribbon, you can use bows at the top, really whatever you want. If you enjoyed this tutorial, let me know. Find me on Instagram at Southern Sewing Company and tag me with your creations. Thanks, y'all.